Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today we're going to be going over the Spellbook Pendulum Perform Age deck profile. I know that's a lot of words. If somebody actually thinks of a really clever name, I prefer to use that. And it's a very fun deck to play. It has a lot of advantages, and then there's some things that I would like to work on to make it a better deck. But ultimately, if you guys did not know, you can check out the Dev Pro video. It is extremely fun, like I said before, and it provides an opportunity for players to still play somewhat competitive, as well as play cards that they like. The biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today is that I have addressed the fact that there is glare in my videos when I'm doing deck profiles, and I'm trying to fix that. As you guys can see, I hope you guys can see that this is a little different. The lighting is very different. I'm not an expert photographer, and I mean, if any of you guys have any tips or anything to put out, then I mean, hey, I'm all more for it. But let's get into the deck profile, provided that you guys can see the deck profile this time around. 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, 3 copies of Perform Age Damage Juggler, 2 copies of Hat Tricker, 1 copy of Perform Age Trick Clown, and 3 copies of Plush Fire. That's pretty much the Spellbook and Perform Age engine. A couple of things I wanted to talk about is that you don't need any other prophecy cards other than Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. High Priestess of Prophecy is mediocre in here. Justice of Prophecy obviously is mediocre because you have no targets. And this literally is the only Spellbook monster that you need. You'll always have spellcasters on the field if played correct. The Clown Blade, or why I keep calling it Clown Blade, I have no idea. The Perform Age engine is great. Damage Juggler combos really well with Magician of Prophecy, because normally you normal summon Magician of Prophecy, you go through all your effects, and now you have a 500 attack monster on the field. They attack into it, trying to swing for as much damage as possible, and then you discard Damage Juggler, and you don't take any damage. Yes, you do lose your spell with Magician of Prophecy, but you also get Damage Juggler to the graveyard, don't take any damage, so that's pretty good. The Hat Tricker and the Trick Clown, I've actually been flipping up the ratios for quite a bit, because the Trick Clown just has so much more potential if you can keep juggling monster effects that detach and keeping it on the field. Whereas the Hat Tricker provides an instant special summon, a level 4 monster, and it does eat the Trick Clown. There really isn't any cards I would take out that I can think of right now that I would take out so I can run 2 and 2. But 2 and 2 would be ideal. The only reason why I don't is because I can always instant fusion this back or some other stuff. And then Plush Fire is the start of our Pendulum engine. Plush Fire is just really good. Being able to special summon any of these guys on the field, and when any of our clown monsters are destroyed, he special summons himself. Next, for the Pendulum counterpart, is going to be 3 copies of Magical Abductor and 3 copies of Luster Pendulum the Draco Slayer. This is really the interesting part, I can say, nonetheless, mainly because the deck was focused around Magical Abductor before it was focused around anything else. Magical Abductor is Royal Magical Library for Pendulum monsters. Every time a spell card is activated, you add a counter to it. You can remove 3 spell counters to add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. So, I mean, the thought process behind Magical Abductor is that you can play Prophecies, activate Magical Abductor, and just go through your normal Spellbook plays, and as time goes on, this card makes your deck so much more dangerous, because then that's when you start adding second copies of her, Luster Pendulum Draco Slayers, and Plush Fires, and then you can start special summoning a huge amount of monsters to the field and then abuse that. Unfortunately, that's it for Pendulums. I really didn't feel that any of the other Pendulums were good enough. I was running, I can't say its name right, I want to say Shankink Magician, the level 7 guy. The only reason I stopped running them is because we don't have a really good scale 8 Pendulum monster until we get the normal Pendulum monster, and then it's like, might as well just play Pendulum Magician at that time. But it's really abusive on special summoning Draco Slayers, special summoning your Plush Fires, or even your Abductors. And once you make that first Signister, you probably won, because you'll just have so much advantage on board. For the spells, 3 Upstart Goblin. That card's actually really good, because think of Upstart Goblin, where Royal Magical Library is face up on the field. You activate, your opponent does gain 1,000, you do draw a card, but you also put a spell counter on Magical Abductor. Also, keep in mind that the Magical Abductor gains spell counters even when your opponent activates spell cards. 2 copies of Livier de Secrets. Spellbook of Secrets is obviously the most impertinent part to the Spellbook strategy. It adds the little boys to your hand and any other Spellbook that you need. Next is Livier de Mestri. I'm pretty bad at Italian. What Masters does is that it copies a spellbook spell card in your graveyard, and all you have to do is have a spellcaster monster on your field. Most of your monsters are spellcasters, and also reveal a spellbook card in your hand. Keep in mind you can reveal Little Boy for Spellbook of Masters because it says spellbook card, not spellbook spell card as the rest of them do say. Next is Levier de Magie de Destiny, which Spellbook of Fate recently came to 2 off the list. So I mean that's another thing that really wanted me to make me play this deck. This is our only trap card that we run, and I know it's not a trap card. Its effect is you banish 3 spellbook cards in your graveyard, or up to 3, and you get an effect depending on it. Well, here's the plot twist. Spellbook of Fate effect happens on resolution. The banishing is the only thing that you do first, then your opponent can do whatever they do in response, and then after that you do whatever you do. So for example, if I'm banishing 3 to banish a card on the field, my opponent would activate cards in response after I banish my 3, and then I can select a card on the field, and then it gets banished. So I mean that's really good for when your opponent wants to get rid of the cards that they intentionally thought you were going to get, and then you would just pick something else because you do pick on resolution. Next, 2 copies of Spellbook of Power. I'm not even gonna lie, the real reason why I'm running 2 copies of Spellbook of Power is because they're ultimate rare, and I don't really see too many people with ultimate rare Spellbook of Powers. Yes, I'm that type of guy. But I mean, you could cut it for a Book of Moon, but even if not, it's still a really good card in here. You make the XC monster, I forget his name, Trapeze Magician, and then you target any of your spellcaster monsters and activate power, and you're gonna go in for some amazing plays because your opponent's you're gonna activate power twice because it destroyed 2 monsters. So that's good. 3 monsters if you use, or 4 cards if you use masters. So yeah, that's even better. Next is 2 Grand Spellbook of Tower. People should already know what that card does. It's very key to the deck. Very easy to put spellcasters in the graveyard, even if we do set monsters face down or whatever or whatnot. 2 copies of Spellbook of Wisdom. That's actually another card that you could drop because I just noticed that I don't play Book of Moon, and Book of Moon is really good in here. But that's another one of those cards, or 2 of those cards if you really wanted to, that you can drop. Spellbook of Wisdom is really good though, because if you are playing against decks with back row, and since the format is undefined, we really don't know what's going on. You summon your monsters you're going through, and your opponent stops your combo. You Spellbook of Wisdom, add a counter to your magical abductor, and then you keep going whatever your play is. It really helps with the OTKs if you do find a way to make them. 2 copies of Spellbook of Eternity. That card's actually pertinent, especially since we're running Spellbook of Fate. Eternity is gonna grab these spellbook cards that you banished with Fate back to your hand, and then Livre Magie de Crescent. 2 copies of those. I really don't like Crescent in here, mainly because if I activate Crescent, I can't activate Pendulum scale cards, and if I activate Pendulum scale cards, it's obviously vice versa. So I'm not a big fan of Crescent, but I do realize that the deck, you need your cards as fast as possible, and if your scales are already set up, then it really doesn't matter. So I decided to go with 2 instead of 3. The last 2 cards to make it 40 is Instant Fusion, and Instant Fusion has a lot of qualities that makes the cards good. The first thing is that all your monsters except for Spellbook Magician is level 4, so yeah, you can make Norden, and then Norden goes from there. The deck is really straightforward. Like I said, your only trap card is Spellbook of Fate. I guess you can consider Spellbook of Wisdom because it protects you from other cards, spells or traps or whatever. It has a really good matchup against decks that don't play a lot of back row, and even if they do, there's ways around it. More often than not, every time I've activated Spellbook of Power, I've won that game, just because you start to generate so much advantage off of Spellbook of Power that you just pretty much steamroll your opponent from there on out. You have all your spellbooks, you have all your pendulums set up, like you just gain so many immense amounts of power. This deck's biggest weakness, personally, I don't like playing against decks that have effect negation in here, because they start stopping the little boy, and then they'll stop your major XC pushes. It's not really that much of a problem, but effect negation probably would make the deck a little weaker than what it is. Another thing is obviously cards like Mistake. That completely ruins the strategy, but you know, you side in 3 Mystical Space Typhoons for that. Nobody really mains Mistake from what I know anymore. Let's get on to the extra deck though. Alright guys, extra deck is very straightforward. You can possibly run with almost whatever you want, but let's get into it. 2 copies of Norden, Constellar Pleiades, Artifact Durandal, 2 copies of Satellar Knight Diamond, 1 Timaeus, Abyss Dweller, Trapeze Magician, Castell, Honor Arc, and 3 Ignister, the Draco Slayer. There is one card, if I'm correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, there is one card missing. And the card missing is the new Exceed Draco Slayer monster that when it's summoned, you get to add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. That card's like, it's really, really good. Unfortunately, through my 2 boxes, and watching a couple other people's boxes, I was not able to acquire it for some strange reason. I haven't even seen it in real life, so that's interesting nonetheless. The extra deck, like, it's very, very, very straightforward. The only thing that I would like to do, I probably could drop a Satellarknight Diamond because you never really stack 2 materials in this deck on this card. Is add another Spellcaster monster, possibly even another Trapeze Magician, just because the Spellcaster monster still allows me to tutor my secrets, I'm sorry, my masters, tower, just basically all of my effects. And on top of that, you can still power it. I can make Trapeze Magician and another Spellcaster monster, then Trapeze Magician target that other Spellcaster monster, and then power that card. And yeah, it'll be wreckage. I didn't really get a lot of time to go over the extra deck. Just because I felt that the only main combos was the Draco Slayer Exceed, this, and obviously the Nordens are mandatory, just because, you know, you run Instant Fusion. If you don't run Instant Fusion, then you obviously don't run these. But that's the only thing I genuinely felt was mandatory. This deck is really good at, sometimes it can summon 2 Exceed monsters at the same time, so you, like, go for Dweller, just to get over, you know, your opponent's Cosmo, or just in case when you get over your opponent's Cosmo cards, you don't want to activate its effects. And then you go to, like, the Trapeze Magician, and you Spellbook a power, and then, you know, you go from there, and it's pretty deadly. Dweller is normally 2200 because you're using Norden, but if it isn't, it isn't. Like I said, it's not really much else to talk about this. I guess people keep on asking me why we're in 2 copies of Satellarknight Constellar Diamond, and it's starting to become like where you really don't even have to run this because, you know, dark monsters aren't that good as they used to. You know, Shadows being banned, and Burning Abyss getting pretty big hit, or getting hit pretty hard. So, I mean, really, I just use them for material for extra Plutalamus, so I can have 4 materials, so when I detach, I have enough material to activate these 2 guys' effects pretty efficiently. Durandal is actually MVP. I really can't. It's really, really good. I think people sleep on Durandal. If you can make Durandal, you probably should be playing it. But I don't really think there's too many combos, but I mean, to be real with you, yeah, I'll go over the basic combos. So this basically requires any copy of Spellbook, Magician of Prophecy. You can get any other Spellbook card in your hand. I'm just going to start off with Magician of Prophecy and Master. This is what you normally want to start off with. You're going to normal summon Spellbook of Magician of Prophecy. That's going to be your hand. And with Spellbook Magician of Prophecy's effect, you're going to add Spellbook of the Secrets. Then you're going to activate Spellbook of Secrets. Let me put this right here. That's your hand. Spellbook of Secrets is going to add Spellbook of Tower. Next, this goes to the graveyard. You're going to activate Spellbook of Master. You're going to reveal Spellbook of Tower to your opponent and then copy Spellbook of Secrets. With that, you're going to get Spellbook of Destiny. And then you're going to activate the Tower and set the Spellbook of Fate. I'm sorry. When your opponent declares an attack, you have multiple options. You can flip their monster face down, but what most people like to do is like they like to activate Fate and flip the little boy face down by banishing these 2 Spellbooks. And then little boy gets flipped face up. It activates his effect. And his effect is to add Spellbook of Eternity to your hand. Now, on your draw phase, you get the draw card. And then you get to activate Spellbook of Tower's effect to return this to the bottom of your deck to draw another card. And now you are on the roll. Your Eternity will get your secrets will get blah, 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 blah. And then now that you scouted your opponent's, you know, whatever they're doing, then you're all good to go. Another great thing about this deck, this requires a lot of setup, but if you can have a lot of activation counters, let's say if you have Abductor and you got really, really lucky, and you drew your secrets, you drew your little boy, and this would just be so godly, but 3 Upstart Goblin, what you would do is you activate the Abductor, then you go your 3 Upstart Goblins. It really, I mean, you're bound to draw a Spellbook. I mean, so we're just gonna add 3 Spellbooks, but you're bound to draw at least 1 Spellbook in your hand. Abductor is gonna go ahead and get you this little thing. Now, and then you're gonna go ahead and go through your combos. Secrets to, I think you go Secrets, Master, Power, Tower. Okay, so you have 4, so go ahead and add another one. And then you keep going through that, and you basically get your pendulum scales set up, and then like you wind up with 2 cards in graveyard. You get your setup, you have tower, and maybe 2 counters on abductor, and you really put a lot of pressure on your opponent. The next following turns, you go through your spell counters again. You get your other abductors or your other plushes, and then you start pendulum summoning, XE summon, and then you just wreck your opponent. It's really about putting counters on abductor. Once you do, it's GG for the opponent. But thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe. I actually wanted to know, what did you guys think about the lighting, and how can I improve the lighting? What do you guys think would do? What do you guys want to see in these type of videos? Because the Cali Effect is always improving. This has been the Cali Effect, over and out.
Hey guys, if you want to see more Cali Effect content, you can always click on the video on the left. That's going to take you to the Dimension of Chaos box opening. Or furthermore, if you guys actually want to see this Pendulum deck in action, you can click on the video on the right. It will take you right to the Pendulum Performage Spellbook deck. Consequently, I do sell cards online, and I do have the cheapest prices. That link is going to be down below in the description, taking you to the cheapest binder update so you can support your favorite Yu-Gi tuber. Thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy.